Welcome back, everybody, to the KC Sports Report Chiefs postgame live stream. I'm your host, Michael Darcy, coming at you on this Christmas Eve in 2022. I'm going to break down the Kansas City Chiefs' 24-10 victory over the Seattle Seahawks in Week 16 of the NFL season. So like I said, guys, it is Christmas Eve, so I'm not going to do a super long recap, but I wanted to hop on and give my thoughts about this game because even though the score might not indicate a major win for the Chiefs, I think this was one of their best wins of the season. Now, that's a pretty lofty statement to make, but if you watch this game, the Chiefs really looked good. And maybe they didn't look good on offense all the time, but, I don't really want to harp on that because we've seen the Chiefs offense go from terrible one week to electric and dynamic in the next. When you have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and Travis Kelce, your offense will be fine. I have no concerns about the offense. But coming into this game, I said this last night, my big concern was the defense and the turnovers. I just thought that we were turning the ball over at a rate that wasn't sustainable to win games. And so I wanted to see this Chiefs team really focus on not turning the ball over and playing better defense. And they did both of those things in this game, only gave up 10 points to a very good Seattle Seahawks team that's fighting for a playoff spot. And that final touchdown was really in garbage time when the Chiefs were already up 24-3. So I think that the defense played their tail off. They're able to get to the quarterback very effectively. They were able to apply pressure. Their secondary was locked down today. The linebackers were really great. And I think that, our defense has shown flashes this year of their true potential. But in this game, it kind of looked like they put it all together. Because if we see this Chiefs defense in the playoffs, this team will go to the Super Bowl. Now that's again a very lofty statement to make, but we just need this defense to be good enough. And today, they were better than good enough. They were the reason why you won this game. And I think that it really comes down to one thing that, I don't know if they practiced it extra this week in practice or they just, kind of were able to get around to the ball this week. But the Chiefs did not miss very many, if any, tackles in this game. And I think that kind of led to a lot of these like quick 3-and-outs. The Chiefs were swarming to the ball. The Chiefs were hitting the Seattle Seahawks offense hard, and they didn't miss any tackles. I think they had at one point 7 or 8 tackles for loss. I mean, that's something that, they really haven't done this season, and they've struggled. Now, I will say they could get a little bit better at stopping the run. Kenneth Walker III had 26 carries for 107 in this game. And one big stat line also is the time of possession battle was heavily in the Seahawks' favor. They ended up having the ball for 35 minutes of this game. But, I think that the Chiefs, actually, the Seahawks had more total yards of offense. They've had the ball for more time in the game. They had more first downs, but it didn't really end up mattering. The Chiefs just ended up outperforming them in offense. And, offensively, they did still have some miscues, but they just looked so much better this week than they did last week. And again, kind of like what I said last night, it doesn't really matter by the margin in which you win a game. It just matters that you're improving in the games that you're playing. And in my opinion, the Chiefs really improved in this game because Harrison Butker didn't miss any extra points, didn't miss any field goal attempts. You saw our defense really step up and improve, holding a borderline playoff team to 10 points. You saw a offense that has been riddled with turnover problems not turn the ball over. And those are 3 major wins in my book. So yeah, this final score might only show that the Chiefs won by 2 touchdowns, which I would consider a blowout anyway. But this game was really a great sign for Chiefs fans because if this is the team that we see come January, we're going to be okay. Now, this team that we saw today and the team that we saw last week and the week before that in Denver, I would say are completely different teams. The offense in this game, it did have some problems moving the ball about halfway through. All of their points until about the fourth quarter came in the first half. But, I think that's kind of been the story of the Chiefs team is that they are going to have a half that's really good, and the second half might not be so good, or the first half might be terrible, but they'll turn it on in the second half. That's just kind of what the Chiefs have been. But again, I don't really want to harp on the offense too much because no one really is concerned about the Chiefs offense. If you've watched enough Chiefs football and you have seen Patrick Mahomes do MVP-like things week in, week out, you would know that the Chiefs offense, even though it might sputter here and then, they're okay in the long run. The Chiefs offense will be fine. Again, we were kind of talking about how turnovers were their biggest Achilles heel. And, one game isn't enough to say that it completely changed, but this was the first game in a couple games that they hadn't turned the ball over. So I think that's a major victory on the offensive perspective. Defensively, it's so crucial that you held a borderline playoff team to 10 points because you let Russell Wilson drop a a season high 28 points with the Broncos. And that offense was so bad that it had me kind of questioning the DNA of this defense. And then last week, you let Davis Mills and the Houston Texans drop 24 points on us. So I was really concerned with the state of the defense after the past 2 weeks. But I think that this game kind of put me to sleep and kind of silenced a lot of my criticisms, which I'm glad because at the end of the day, I want the Chiefs to be good just as much as you guys do. But I had some legitimate concerns, and I still do have those concerns. But at least for the time being, at least in week 16 of the NFL season, the Chiefs were able to correct those things. And I think that we have to acknowledge that, and we have to kind of congratulate the Chiefs for at least taking notice of some of those problems. And to the best of my knowledge, I think that they addressed all of them and they were able to correct them in this game. And the Chiefs are still probably going to have a couple more of these problems flare up in the season, but it just can't be everything. I was actually in the stadium about 5 or 6 hours before game time. I guess it might have been 6. I got to the stadium around 6:00 in the morning. And by the way, freezing. For the people that actually attended this game, props to you, because when I pulled into the Arrowhead Stadium parking lot at 6:00 in the morning, there was already like 25 cars that were waiting to get into tailgate. And it was a sellout crowd. There ended up being like 73,000 in attendance. And the crowd played a big noise factor in this game, and it helped the Chiefs defense. And they could kind of feed off of the energy. And that might be one of the many reasons why they were so good in this game. But, when I pulled up this morning, I went into the stadium and started getting to work. But I was asking one of my bosses who she has a little bit of inside knowledge of the Chiefs and kind of follows them closely because she obviously works for them. And she was talking about how Harrison Butker was at the stadium, not the practice facility, at Arrowhead Stadium, like every single day this week, kicking field goals with Tommy Townsend. And I think that's so incredibly important because we needed to see Harrison Butker step up, and he did that in this game. Granted, I mean, it hasn't come back to really, well, it has, but it hasn't affected the Chiefs too much with the extra points being missed. But I would say that him missing field goals has costed the Chiefs at least one game. You could argue two, but I really think that it wasn't fair to give up on Harrison Butker, but you could kind of question his reliability. But I think that now that he's back in the groove, at least right now, and if he continues performing at this level, we should have that problem under wraps. And with the returning, Kadarius Toney was back in this game. He had a touchdown catch. That's all signs towards improvement. And if he's going to be on the field, I don't necessarily have problems with the special teams unit returning punts. But, let's go over some of these offensive stats because I think that they're absolutely incredible. One that is worth noting is that Patrick Mahomes was 16 of 28 for 224 and 2 touchdown passes. He did not throw an interception in this game. And the leading receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs was none other than Travis Kelce. He had 6 receptions for 113 yards. Isaiah Pacheco had one catch for 32 yards. Jerick McKinnon had 3 receptions for 31 yards. Juju had 3 for 27. Kadarius Toney had 1 for 8, and that one reception was that touchdown, which was like a little toss-up, flip pass by Patrick Mahomes. He was able to evade defenders and get into the end zone. Marquez Valdes-Scantling had a kind of disappointing game. He had 2 targets, but didn't catch a ball. He dropped both of them. So hopefully he improves next week. On the running game, Isaiah Pacheco had 14 carries for 58 yards. McKinnon had 5 carries for 7 yards. They didn't really rely heavily on the running game in this matchup, which kind of surprised me because I thought that the weather was going to play more of a factor in this. And trust me, I think that the weather played more of a factor than a lot of people are going to let on to believe, because it was really cold. Like, the weather might not have showed it, but with wind chill, it actually felt like negative 20 degrees. And I guess it warmed up as the game went along, but it was still probably -5 or -6 degrees, what it felt like. And that's hard. That's hard conditions to play football in. So I think that our offense, all things considering, played pretty well under the circumstances. And I think that they're going to continue getting better. And I don't have a problem with the offense. The offense, had shown that they turned the ball over a lot. And that was really my only concern. But as of today, they've stopped that for the time being. So that is a really good sign. And, one thing that I mentioned earlier is defensively, they were able to get to the quarterback. They had 2 sacks. George Karlaftis and Chris Jones got 1. And one important stat, I mentioned it earlier, but I actually have an exact number now. The Chiefs had 9 tackles for loss in this game. 9. The Seattle Seahawks, for example, had 2. That just shows you the very big difference. And the Chiefs defense, I mean, they were flying around. They were making plays. They just looked really prepared, and they knew where the ball was going. And, Geno Smith has had a great year. I mean, a lot of people really didn't expect him to be as good as he has been. And the Seahawks are a great story. But, as I kind of told Brandon Rogers last night, it was really going to be whether or not the Chiefs tripped up over themselves. And in this game, they didn't. They got out to a lead. They were able to score early, which is something that they have not done seemingly in weeks. And so they were able to get on top early and kind of let their defense settle in. And, really, really, you won this game in the first half. But the defense played a lights out game. And that one touchdown that they did give up, I'm not really sweating it because it was in the final minutes of the fourth quarter, and your team was already up by 21 points. So I really am happy with how this defense played in this game. And if that's a sign of things to come in the future, I really like our chances in the playoffs. Now, kind of talking about the playoff picture now, unfortunately for us, the Buffalo Bills did win in Chicago, and they have continued to be in that number 1 seed in the AFC. Next week, they play the Cincinnati Bengals. It's going to be in Cincinnati, I believe. That's going to be whether that will determine if the Chiefs get the 1 seed. I hate to be that way, and I don't want to discount the Patriots, but if the Cincinnati Bengals don't beat the Buffalo Bills, the Chiefs will not get the 1 seed, and they're going to have to settle for the 2 seed, which, okay, fine. I would really like the Chiefs to get that 1 seed. I think that we saw today how much the crowd plays a factor in how the defense performs. And when the defense is performing, you're going to have a chance to win any single game. And I think that the home field advantage is something that a lot of people don't really understand how critical it actually is. But it's one of the reasons why the Chiefs have been so successful over the past 5 years. They've always had home field advantage. They have not had to go on the road for a playoff game. And I think that we kind of hurt ourselves by losing to the Cincinnati Bengals and losing to the Bills. But, it's important that whatever happens in the Bills game, that the Chiefs just continue to win games, because if they don't continue to win, the Bengals actually have, I believe they have 1 more loss than us, but since they beat us, they have the tiebreaker. So if we lose, let's say hypothetically we lose to the Raiders in week 18. And if that happens, and the Bengals win out, we're like the 3 seed. So it's important that regardless of the 1 seed in play or not, they're going to have to keep winning games just so they don't drop too far in the AFC playoff picture. So, this game, I really think is a really good step in the right direction for the Chiefs. I'm really confident that they were able to correct some of the issues. Granted, I think that they're going to probably have some of those reoccurring problems pop up again. It's just it's a matter of time before something goes wrong. But all things considered, I mean, we were really frustrated with Harrison Butker. He fixed that, at least in this game. We were frustrated in the defense. Defense looked phenomenal today. We were frustrated in the special teams unit. I guess I already mentioned that. But the special teams unit was fine today. And we were frustrated in the offense turning the ball over, and they didn't do that today. So all things considered, they were able to, do 3 things exceptionally that they have not done in quite some time. And I think that's a really good positive step. And it's something to look forward to, because if the Chiefs can kind of stack these wins together and start playing their best football as they go into the playoffs, that's huge. Like, that could genuinely change the way this season ends for the Chiefs. And it might give them enough momentum to propel themselves to the Super Bowl. So it's really important that you button up, per se, come playoff time. And the Chiefs are kind of starting to find that groove. And maybe this win doesn't look the prettiest on paper, but I'll tell you what, man, it really is going to do a lot for the psyche of this team and just the confidence. Like, right now, they are starting to kind of get that confidence and that groove back. And if the Chiefs are playing confident football, they're a scary bunch to play. So I think that that's a very positive sign. And I'm just excited to see what happens next week. We play the Denver Broncos at home. It's going to be New Year's Day. It's going to be a 12 o'clock start time. As long as they come out in this game and, play exactly like you did in the first half in Denver, just minus the second half. That should be the Chiefs' goal, because if they play the way that they did in the first half of that Denver game, they'll win this game by 30 points. But it's really important that next week you don't let the Broncos drop 30 on the road in your house. That you just can't let them do that. And I think that as long as the Chiefs come out and play, kind of like they did today, offensively, defensively, and special teams, they're not going to have any problems with the Denver Broncos. So, guys, that has been my Chiefs post-game recap of the Week 16 matchup between the Chiefs and the Seahawks. I wanted to kind of get on here, share my thoughts about this game, but I understand that it is Christmas Eve, so probably you guys should go spend time with your family, to be quite honest with you. That's what I'm going to go do. So I really appreciate you guys for listening to this live stream. The Chiefs were able to take down the Seattle Seahawks 24-10 in Week 16 of the NFL season. They advanced to 12-3 on the season, and the Seahawks fall to 7-8. Until next time, guys, thank you for watching this video, and go Chiefs.